So it seems like a little bit more common sense and sanity is seeping into San Francisco. First, Mayor London Breed said that she was going to get tough on crime. Then the moderate liberal was calling out the progressive leadership for ruining the city. And now we have former Mayor Slick Willie Brown saying that he's not optimistic about the city's future. And he is kind of a political playboy. He, of course, brought us Camel Hills Up Harris. He was using her as his own personal wiener warmer long before she was border czar or Montel Williams' side chick. And Brown was mayor long before corrupt car payment floozy London Breed or Chinatown gangster co-defendant Ed Lee or greaseball Gavin, I'll bang your wife, Patrick Bateman lookalike Newsom. And Brown was a little bit before my time. I don't know too much about him, but I can only assume he was heavily involved in some sort of pre-internet Democrat corruption. And we've got this article from the SF Gate. Willie Brown is not optimistic about plagued San Francisco's political future. Former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown is not a fan of San Francisco's current group of leaders. In a New York Times interview, and this is behind a paywall that I obviously refuse to pay for, Brown declared that San Francisco is plagued with idealism and predicted that the city, which has an outsized influence on national politics with leaders such as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Vice President Kamala Harris hailing from San Francisco, will lose that political power in the future, and we can only hope that he's correct. We have no bench, Brown said. We have not attempted to build a roster of new talented people. Brown did not name any of the leaders by name, and when asked directly, "Do I hear you saying that San Francisco is no longer at the vanguard of liberal ideas for the country?" he replied with, "No, we still have all kinds of people with ideas, but we have nobody on the bench capable of implementing them." Specifically, Brown said he was disillusioned with how leaders have responded to the homelessness crisis, but says later in the interview they can't solve it. It's too rooted in poverty and mental health. So he is a Democrat, so naturally he has to talk about root causes, even though he himself might be one of those root causes. And this is just an old school Democrat looking at the new Democrats and saying, what are you guys doing? And there's another strange problem in San Francisco. San Francisco's sinking Millennium Tower has a new fix amid scrutiny. So there is a giant building full of $1 million condos, and it's just sinking into the earth. No big deal. Safety first, right? I mean, how does it get this bad? Was it a building inspector who dropped the ball or a corrupt contractor? I mean, they want to monitor every single one of your medical records now, but they weren't careful enough to make sure that a multi-billion-dollar building filled with $1 million condos doesn't sink into the earth. So there's a sinking building problem. There's the homelessness. There's the car break-ins that are so prevalent. People are leaving their doors wide open so their windows don't get broken. Smash and grabs at retail shops. The world-famous poop problem. Asian hate crimes. The cost of living is through the roof. Sideshows everywhere. They're kicking cops out of restaurants because they're afraid that their guns might just go off randomly. And it is also home to most of the big tech firms, but they constantly talk about income inequality. So while all this is happening, is it any wonder that they can't stop screaming about the sniffles and trying to force people to take the poke full of their science serum just so that they can sit down at a restaurant?